All right. Oh, it's on. I'm going to bang this thing. Are we ready?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. That's me calling this August 24th meeting of the Cumberland Town Council to order. Chair Eads is out this evening, so I'm driving the bus. The Finance Committee met beforehand at 6 p.m., went over some cool stuff, some of which we'll touch on later. And first up, we have the approval of the minutes. Anybody wants to give a motion?
Yeah, I can do that.
I'll give you a motion. Motion to approve
Great.
the minutes
Second.
Great.
from the August 10th, 2026 meeting.
All right, we have motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, unanimous. All right. Moving on to this meeting's business/organization highlight. We have Danielle Tracy of the Community Food Pantry. If you'd like to introduce the organization for those who don't know much about it, or maybe provide some updates on current happenings or needs or anything the community should know. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Is this on? Hi. I've been here for so many other occasions, not for a town council meeting. Hi, well, thank you for inviting me. My name is Danielle Tracy. I am the president of the food pantry, which really just means I get stuck giving the speech because, we couldn't do it without everybody else. But so the food pantry, of course, was started by Bill Shane and Linda, and it's been about a year. It's been a little over a year since lovely Linda and Bill have headed south for crazy warmer weather. And also similarly about a year since we've lost our dear friend Tom Gruber. So we are proud to say that we didn't miss a beat. It might have looked a little different and felt a little different, but we have been open every other Friday, and we haven't missed it since since losing 3 founders. But again, like I said, we couldn't do it without volunteers. I mean, we are all volunteers, and I'm happy to say we've got some great ones here, Elaine and Danielle and Dean and Dana, and really we've got an amazing group of people, Susan and Christine, and I could stand here and name 100 people. But so every other week we're open on Fridays from 3 to 6, and we have 90 to 100 families that visit with us every other week. Mostly from Cumberland and North Yarmouth. We do have some outliers. We started with the churches in the area, with White Pines, with UCC, with Holy Martyrs, with a number of other churches in the area, Tuttle Road. So we had some friends from those churches that came, and we've kind of kept a lot of them along. And sometimes people move from one place to another, and they ask if they can stay with us. So we are, we try to help that out. God bless you. So, we go up to maybe 120 families or so around the holidays, different times of the year. For sure, we see bumps in people. But it's really since COVID, every other Friday, we don't have clients come in the pantry anymore. We, I think what is a little special about us is that we communicate with our clients, a volunteer every week or every open week, so every other week. We communicate with them and we find out what their needs are. We have personal conversations with them. We know their patterns sometimes. We have sent, County Sheriff's Department for a wellness check if we don't hear from some of our clients. So, it's a great connection. And, when you come here on Friday nights, if ever you try to come by, if ever, Matt's parked in the parking lot, they're lined up by like noon. We don't open our doors till 3, but they, obviously have made friendships among themselves. And so, it's definitely a social event. Like I said, we do the shopping for them in the pantry, so the stable goods, the dry goods. When they come, we put in some meats that they requested, some frozen items, milk, eggs, cheese, deli, those kind of things. And then they get to get out of their cars and go into what is the police bay next to us, next to the food pantry, which we set up on Friday morning at 6:45, into a market that they can shop for their own fruits and vegetables and breads and pastries, which generally are, a significant amount from the local Hannaford. So as far as technically, every one of our clients fills out paperwork that, we have Cumberland Community Food Pantry paperwork. Every one of our clients fills out, part of that paperwork is the TFAP form, the Emergency Food Assistance Program from the federal government. You guys, I'm sure, are all familiar with that because in October, November, you all agreed to the forms that come out that have income eligibility guidelines on it, have the SNAP, and TANF and any WIC and anything else on there, the boxes that they can check. So everybody fills that out. Paige Kumbakis, who is your GA administrator, she is also, I'm from Falmouth, by the way. She's also a Falmouth GA, so she's a lot of regional, she does GA for a lot of the regional communities. She sent us all, including you, I'm sure, the DHHS information last year on the number of SNAP recipients in the area, written out by towns. And, here in Cumberland, you're over 100 friends and neighbors on SNAP. And so Paige works with them on, GA and things that she can, things that you as a community support, heating assistance, rental assistance, those kind of things. She sends them to me for food. We are food. We begin with food and we end with food, and we do as much food as we can. So, but Paige is a great resource, and she and I connect. She's here on Thursdays in the little conference room over there, and she's a wonderful resource for everybody, and sends people my way when they need some help. As far as the world that we're living in now, SNAP is hurting people in this community. SNAP is hurting people all over, for sure. But for sure, I always want people, like I said, in my community of Falmouth and in your community of Cumberland, there are people here that are hurt by this, by what was the SNAP cuts in the big newspaper, still is the SNAP cuts. So I can say that that's still a thing that we have. I don't do personally help them, but I try to help them further in food because I know that SNAP cuts hurts a lot of them. What I can see is the USDA cuts has definitely made a difference in what food I can get. Local farmers, we're not getting the food or the fresh produce we used to get. For instance, this week I order from the Good Shepherd and the Wayside Food Program. I was not able to order potatoes and carrots and onions. Your basic 50-pound bags. We used to always have 4 50-pound bags of potatoes and carrots and onions. But I couldn't get any this week because I'm hopeful that the Good Shepherd has a little bit of them and they'll give me a few in the van when we go up on Thursday, but those are cuts. And the farmers aren't farming for food pantries anymore. So those are kind of specific things that are in the news that are truly happening to us or to all of our people. But you know what? Hannaford's been amazing. We get a lot of food. And again, we can do it because we have amazing volunteers every Thursday, every Sunday that picks it up, brings it to us, and sorts it. Some of it's not good. We do a lot of pig runs. Danielle and Dana and Dean know where the pig farm is very well. So, but, we do get a lot of stuff. And again, without our volunteers, we couldn't take all of this food because we couldn't deal with it. And we also have great refrigeration. We have a great walk-in freezer. So everything gets immediately put, all of the meats, all of the pastries, all of the breads go in the walk-in freezer until the night before we're open. So there's a lot of different things going on, but it's good. There's a lot of, some scary things that are happening. The Good Shepherd is doing a great job at trying to manage it all. Don Morrison over at the Wayside Food Program is doing a great job trying to manage it all. Paige here. But, I have to say, Cumberland has been an amazing community. We have amazing partners here in Cumberland. I mean, Matt, Whitney, Helene, and library, lots of library folks, and, lots of volunteers that we have here, and Jessica in the finance office as well, and Christina and Devin and Allie, and, at the clerk's office, and, and certainly the police department puts up with us. We try to be a good neighbor and keep the place clean and stuff, but, doors are open, and when it's hot, I'm sure it affects them, with their air conditioning, but they put up with us. So, the schools have been amazing. Mabel I. Wilson does a lot with, bringing us food once a month. They have little collections at the school. The middle school does scholastic book funds and brings us books we can donate to our kids and money. I worked with some students from the high school, from a world studies class, I think it was, that wanted to do something. And so we, talked, and they made us some food to give out to our friends. The cafeteria is great. When they go on break, they bring us all of their food, and, we're thrilled to be able to give it to everybody, and, pre-made sandwiches and soups and things like that. Certainly Fab Fab, I'm sure you've seen the bus with the big Fab, fill a belly, fill a bus. It's a huge program every year. Gosh, I like I said, I could go on and on. The library has been amazing and has, done a lot for us as well. Cumberland Crossing group of friends, Village Green, Food Stop, local farmers, Sicilian Table, Tuscan Table, Maggie Mays, all these relationships that we have, help us. Even the farmers market, they have Maine Harvest Bucks, and they, give us some help as well. So it's great. Bottom line is, it's every day's a struggle for some people, and we do everything we can to help them out. We try to be friendly. I think we have fun. I think we laugh and joke and smile a lot with our friends, and I think that they just think they're coming grocery shopping, and that's what we try to make it feel like. So, we do special events, Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm sure you guys know, because this whole town council chambers is full of stuff. We just did school supplies, so, we all know how expensive that is, and trying to help teachers so that they don't have to supply everything. So, we go on and on with the things that we try to do to help, and the things that I don't think people understand, that even those that get SNAP, you can't buy toilet paper with SNAP. You can't buy dish soap with SNAP. There's so many things you can't buy. So we try, with our cash donations, everybody gets 3 rolls of toilet paper and a roll of paper towels every other week. Dish soap, laundry soap, other things, cleaning supplies, you can't buy them with SNAP. So, if your money is limited, you're going to buy food, you're not necessarily going to buy those kind of things. So we recognize that. We get a lot of food donated that we can give. The money we get donated, we try to spend on other things that we feel, me as a mom, as a parent, as a person living in a home needs, and that other people would appreciate. So, I don't know if I got no agenda for what I was supposed to talk about. Matt just said, come on over. And I said, I got permission from my town. I'm a town councilor in Falmouth, so I got permission from my town manager to be late to my council meeting. And, so I have no agenda other than that laid out for you. And, if there are any specific questions, I'm going to take off after this, but we do have an email, cfpo4021, pretty simple, at Gmail. Or we have a phone number downstairs, 558-9121, which instantly sends me an email that says, you have a voicemail, and, it's a fascinating, again, Town of Cumberland has set it up. Brandon's a great IT guy, set it up for us so that we can, we don't have anybody that actually works in the office, so, but
Thank you.
how did I do? Did I cover it all? My people?
I learned more than I ever knew I wanted to know about the food pantry. I appreciate it. So we have Councilor Filson will go first, and then Councilor Vail has a question or a comment.
Thank you so much, just for all of the great work and for you all being here. This is so wonderful and it's a privilege for us to be able to recognize you. I had two questions. So for folks to qualify to get food for paper towels, everything that you provide. So for the paperwork, say someone loses their job, and so your income statements from last year aren't going to reflect that. Is there flexibility with all of that, or do people have to kind of qualify on paper per their last tax return?
Absolutely. If you come to the food pantry because you need food, I'm going to give you food.
Okay.
I don't ask people to bring, we are asking them to bring an ID so we can see where they live. But I'm not, and we tell them to fill out the TFAP form. They don't have to circle their income on the TFAP form. They just have to check the box that says that they have reviewed it, and so that they understand what the eligibility requirements are. But I do not, we don't ask. If you need food and you come to us, we're going to give you food. Because you're right, there are, we've had a divorced mom, and and I just said to her, I want you to be safe, and if that means you have to get divorced and go live somewhere else, then I'm going to give you every food I can give you. I mean, I've got nothing else, but I can give you a lot of food. So yeah, for sure, we don't, check their last year's tax returns and all that kind of thing, so.
Awesome. And then my second question was, so right now you don't have enough onions and carrots, and are there parameters around where you were able to accept food from, i.e. if I grew way too many gigantic zucchini this year and I have 15 chickens, so we always have lots of eggs. Are people able to, just regular citizens, able to donate, or do you have to work through some of the organizations that you mentioned?
No, we will take food from regular citizens. You're not a regular citizen, you're a town councilor.
I'm below a regular citizen.
So yeah, I mean, especially at this time, we do get some people that come by on a Friday. The hard part is we're open every other Friday, so I don't want to take your fresh vegetables. I could put them in my refrigerator, but I don't want you to leave them in the grocery cart out front. Again, we have volunteers that probably almost every day check the carts and bring them downstairs, but it would help us more if you sent us an email, or,
okay.
And said, hey, I've got, 10 pounds of zucchini, and I would say, okay, well, come, either I could meet you here at a certain day or tell you when people are here, generally all day Thursday before our open day Friday, and we are open this Friday. So, if you look from there on out for the foreseeable, till maybe January 1st, but, or Sunday mornings, Danielle is here, we get Hannaford here. So there are opportunities for sure. Even to the point where, I have a dear friend whose dog died, and she said, I have this giant half bag of dog food. Can I bring it over? And I said, sure. So again, and we have somebody, I think, from the council or from prior council brings us some deer meat that is processed. And again, we kind of need to know. I don't just take it from just anybody. If it's in the cart and it's something that's perishable, I'm going to throw it away. But if I get a call or an email that says I have, we had this big retirement party and we, took whatever and we're going to bring it to you or something, we can make that work for sure.
Awesome. I think it's good for people at home to know too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Councilor Bell?
I want to thank you for all you do and all the people that are here that put the work behind it. We had a former town councilor, Tom Gruber, Bill Shane, his wife, all three of them put tremendous amount of hours in, and it fills such an important part of the needs of the community. The thing that I appreciate you mentioning is that you speak to the people that come, and so those conversations, people who have food insecurities also have other insecurities. And I hope that there's that you're reaching out to them and questioning them, whether it's a set of winter tires or a car repair or a roof patch or something like that. There are organizations, the Lions Club for one, but there's also other people that in the community who will step up and provide some of those things that as needed basis. So I'm hoping that those conversations are ongoing and that you know the people.
We do, yeah, for sure. Like I said, I don't provide those kind of things, and you're right, Bill Shane, had more connections than I did, but Cop Motors and Story Brothers, and, there's a lot of community groups that do a lot of work here, and that can be connected to these people to help. Like I said, Paige helps do some, I think Devin works with the seniors, and she helps them connect with others, so, there are some great community connections here, and we do, feel comfortable that we know our people pretty well.
Anyone else on the council have questions or comments? Yeah.
Hi, just given the changes in the SNAP benefits and the qualifying levels, are you guys going to adjust your levels? I know you say you don't really ask, but you are asking them to do the forms. Are you going to kind of keep it at historical levels, or?
So the TFAP form that we have them fill out is something that you, as town councilors, us as all town councilors in the region, is something that we approve. So it's not, the income eligibility statement is not something that comes from us. It's a state form, it's a TFAP federal form, and I don't see it changing dramatically. I mean, maybe Matt is in on the conversation a bit more, or, it might be a good question to catch up with Paige someday and have her come and talk a bit more about how it happens, but it comes through DHHS, and, and it is way above my $0 pay grade.
Yeah, I guess my question was just because the federal mandates changed, are we going to be able to maintain the same level of service, right? That's the goal, is to maintain the same level of service.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Can you say one thing?
Yeah. Go for it.
Just wanted to say thank you for everything you folks do, and appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming tonight. For real,
you,
this is
Ally.
very enlightening. I had no idea the interconnected web of everything that the food pantry does, and
Yeah.
community partnerships and everything like that. It's really awesome to hear more about your day-to-day and just how it all works. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm thrilled that the library
Right.
is on the agenda, because I didn't ask my friends to come tonight, but bonus. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Send us an email, or, give us a call. I'm going to fly out of here, but happy to answer any more questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Next up is our manager's report. Turn it over to you. Town
Thank you,
Manager
Madam
Sturgis.
Chair. This evening, you get a 2-for-1 special, and I hope I'm wise enough at this point to get out of the way, because we have a fantastic library director in Stacy Mazer, who's here this evening, and she's given us she's given the council a lot of background information, as well as our impact report for this year. So I had asked her when we met at our monthly meeting if she'd be willing to come to the council this evening, and lo and behold, she did. So I'll get out of the way. Then I have a few items after that, if it'd be okay, that I can circle back on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, maybe. She's coming to get me. Okay, here we go. Hi.
Hello,
Good
welcome.
evening. I'm Stacy Mazer, the director of Prince Memorial Library. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm just here to do a sort of short wrap-up of fiscal year '26. We have had record high attendance at library events, really good card holder growth this year, and for every dollar invested in fiscal year '26, we saw $1.75 of return on that investment. We've seen really great through-the-door statistics for visits. We are sort of holding steady at around 60,000 visits right now, post the pandemic. And that's an increase over before the pandemic, which is more around the 50,000. We are seeing incredible growth within our events. This year alone, we saw a 12% increase over last year, and we've seen 3 straight years of increase, which is in part because we have made this very deliberate choice over the last 5 years to invest in our staffing. So I'm very thankful for that, and I'm thankful for all the hard work that our staff has done to get that, that engagement with our community. So as you know, in 2024, we joined a 60-area library consortium called Minerva. And since that, this is our first full year in Minerva, and we've seen this really awesome growth of our library card holders. We added around 600 new library card holders this year, which is about a 15% increase, which is great. So what our goal is, though, by fiscal year 28, we hope to have 6,000 library card holders overall. And stay tuned in September, which is Library Card sign up month. We're going to be launching a new initiative, and we hope you will join us in that initiative. Along with all of the work that we did to get ready for Minerva, we've done a lot of weeding in our collection. So weeding is basically where we withdraw old, outdated material, worn material, just things that aren't really very active in our community. And typically when you do a really good job at weeding, it produces really good results because people are more able to find the items that they want. Your collection does a lot better, and we have seen that this year. We are also seeing this first year of engagement with Minerva going very strongly. We've had our patrons request 12,000 items from other libraries, and we have sent out 12,000 items as well. I'm looking forward to fiscal year 27 when we see what our first full year of Minerva is versus our second. I'm really hoping that as people get comfortable with Minerva, we start to see more growth of that within our community. So as I said, what we did is there is a calculator online. It's the Maine State Library's value calculator. So they assign a retail value for every book, every event, every reference question, anything that you could think of. The value calculator is actually from 2019. So let's imagine the appreciation that's probably happened since then. But with that calculator, we have found that based on appropriation last year, as I said, we've seen $1.75 of investment returned on what we committed to the library, which I think is fantastic. That's around $1.5 million that our community shows has engaged in our library. So what we're hoping to sort of focus on in the next couple years, we are hopefully doing a building assessment. We're going to do a community needs assessment. As I said before, we're hoping to increase our card holders to 6,000, and we're going to continue to pursue investing in our youth services staffing, because we do feel that if we continue to increase hours within that service pool, we'll see the response from our community. They've shown that already. When we put it out there for them, they come to it. Any questions?
Questions, comments, anyone? Yeah, go for it.
I have a lot of questions. And what I really want to ask you is the best thing you've read in the last 12 months, but I'm not going to ask you that question.
Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Dungeon Crawler Carl? Carl. Thank you.
Don't expect it to be high literature. Just fun.
I'm just glad you didn't say yesteryear, which is also wonderful. But anyway, so one of the I love, I think that I love the library, but I think the library, especially for, everyone has different things that they love about the library, right? I'm in the phase of life where when school is closed and it's on a weekday that's not Monday, we try to get over there as quickly as possible because you are a port in the storm, especially when you're a working parent and you're trying to mangle your, naughty children. And one of the wonderful things about the library is that parents can work and,
Yes.
kind of their kids can be entertained in a safe environment that's not in front of a screen. Knowing that the library is closed, and you mentioned kind of special programming, I wonder if you guys had ever talked about or considered maybe doing like some kind of programming or maybe even a couple of hours on like certain holidays when that might fall onto a Monday, or like if that's totally crazy, understood, not trying to add more to your already very full plate. I know it is like such a port in the storm. It's such a wonderful thing, and not trying to milk more out of you, but is there any opportunity to? I think it's a service that a lot of parents desperately feel when they're like, "What do I do when my kids are off?" You know.
Yeah, so the library I came from, we would typically actually be open 2 Mondays. We picked 2 that we would randomly try to be in service. It's economics. We would have to budget for it. That's what it comes down to. It's staff hours.
That's good to know.
But I mean, Mondays in general, I think we could be open every day of the week. People basically asked us to be open every day of the week.
Sure.
Sure, give us some money, we'll do it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
But yes, that certainly sounds like, yes, we see it on the holidays and on the early release Wednesdays. We are very busy. We have a lot of children that come over and are engaged in gaming and Legos and hanging out, and their parents come in, they get books. Yes, so we know that we are one of the many resources that families use when it's,
And love.
yay, yes.
I have a question, but you can go first.
This isn't really a question, it's just more of a comment. Thank you for getting Libby.
You're welcome.
I've been
Yes.
waiting for years and
Yes.
years and, having to use it for other libraries that are much further afield. So thank you.
That
I
was
really
one of the
appreciate
big
that.
initiatives we just did this past year, and that is in part because our lovely, wonderful friends of the library did help supplement the funding for that. That is if you don't know, we get Cloud Library through the state. That is an e-book service where you can read e-books or audiobooks. And then we have decided to invest part of our budget specifically into a new platform that's not new, called Libby. It works a bit more on some of the other types of Kindle readers. And so we started with our very little Libby library. It was just tiny little. But we have been fortunate enough that Wells and Kennebunk have agreed to basically share collections with us. So we have formed our little tiny consortium of 3 libraries. And so you can check out books from Wells and Kennebunk and us. And they all show up in the app now very easily. You don't have to like hunt and peck for them.
So if I go on and look for a book and it says that it's available at Prince Memorial, even if it's not actually Prince Memorial, it's Wells or Kennebunk, that
It's
will
going
show
to
up
show it
too,
a little different on
or-
your app. Why don't you just come on by the library and I'll show you, and I can walk you through it. But yeah, the icon for the library, I think it like changes color for the library card itself. So
Okay, but I don't need to put a card in
No.
for Wells or
No.
Kennebunk. Okay, just great,
it just works.
perfect.
So cool.
Yes.
All right. My question, because I'm looking at one of your key priorities going forward is the teen attendance and the drop in kind of engagement with them. Do you all know why that's happening, or have a strategy for how to bring that back? Is it the activities or timings or?
So I wouldn't say that while attendance at teen events is kind of down, that doesn't mean that we aren't seeing teens in the library. The library is very busy for teens after school.
Good.
It comes down to staffing. Jennifer, and it was previously Melissa, only have so much time in their day to both host events, manage collections, and do all the other things that they have to do. So if we are able to, in the next couple of years, increase our hours for that youth service position, we have seen in the region, Thompson literally in their most recent fiscal report, the library, not the town, talked about how they had previously a assistant director, teen librarian shared position, and they had these low attendances. And when they made the deliberate decision to break those out, they immediately saw this. When there's that human there that's just for you,
Right.
it brings people in. So if we get to that point, that would be fantastic. I think that will address it.
Right. Questions, comments from the council?
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. So before I leave, I just want to say one thing, or 2 things, or 3 things. First, thank you so much to my amazing staff. They are the reason that our community comes to our library. Their generosity and the care and love that they show everybody that walks through that door, they challenge me every day to be a really good leader. So if you are wondering why our library is so great, it's them. And also, thank you very much to our amazing friends of the library. They fund all of our events. All of the work they do, the hard, free work they do, is how we have all the events that we have in this town. And of course, thank you, and thank you to our advisory board. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Thank you all. Yes. Let's do it. All right, back to you.
That is one very tough act to follow if you don't. So, thanks, Stacy. She's amazing. And Councilor Filson, she is, our library director is very good in the no judgment area for what we read for books. And she's, she doesn't mind the Reacher books that I read. But no, it's just great. I mean, it's a celebration, so thank you very much for that. I have a couple different items to talk about with the council this evening. I'd like to circle back on some conversation at the last meeting that I wasn't at that I want to talk about with regarding the reval. And then I had another, I'll start off some quick updates. The Village Green gazebo, I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. It was in a mess. I mean, it was in disrepair early in the summer. Well, Mr. Bolduc has done a great job moving heaven and earth and getting the right folks in there. It's now have a full refresh, so it's in great shape now. It has a brand new roof, decking, structure repairs, put some good drainage in there, and a lot of really good work. A lot of our work was done by our public works staff as well, and it's back to being ready to rock and roll. So it's beautiful there now. I do want to thank Wallace Roofing because they donated the roof, the roofing job. So that was really nice of them to do. So their sign's going to be out on by the road for about another 75 days. That was part of the deal, but that was a really nice gift by them to do that, and it just looks great, and it really sits perfectly in there. And speaking of the Village Green, there is a brand new sidewalk in there. We had all that torn out, and Story Brothers did a great job on that. We did that all as part of the bid work for some of the work that they had to do for the school project. So that work was done right at the same time after they finished up the new sidewalks on Tuttle Road. So that all kind of came together, and we wanted that to be ready in time for the school year to begin. So, and you might have noticed there's some really nice new flashing. I always murder this acronym, but it's like RRFBs, or reflecting flashing beacons, that we've got on there. And I think we're doing another one up on Main Street that we had talked about earlier, Councilor Magoon. So we're in good shape there. Very excited about that and have that ready. There will be another sidewalk done next summer, and that's going to be from Main Street down Blanchard Road to just after Sweetsers. So that's all part of that same project. But that's going to be on next year's workload. There is, if you are on Main Street, you're going to notice that there is a nice new water fountain at Moss Side. And I will say, I got to give credit to Jess Grondin. She was bird dogging me from like the second month I was here to replace that one that had been shut down during the pandemic, and it was old and needed a refresh anyways. But it's got a bottle filler, fountain, and a dog bowl. So it's a triple threat water fountain right there on Main Street. So pretty excited about that. When a couple marathons ago, I relied on that as a water stop all along the way. So my thrifty nature, I could refill my bottle without having to spend money. But it's great to have that back in action now. So let's see. We're wrapping up paving work and driveway replacement at Hawthorne Court. That was well overdue. So I think they're going to have that all tied up or wrapped up this week, which is good. The road was in rough shape, and so that'll be done this week. And we are grateful for the patience of our residents who live there, because they have to park in the circle in the middle while we do all their driveways over. So they've been great to work with on that. The work on the culvert replacement on Route 9 is ongoing, but the detour is still in place. This is a state of Maine DOT project, not a town project, so please don't kill me or our good people who work for us. They were supposed to have that opened up at the end of last week. It is not, so they've got some issues that they're working on there, but we do anticipate the road to reopen this week, and just in time for school to begin. because the detour is about ready to be done. Now on to the other item. I've got a couple items relating to taxes and the reval. If you looked at your tax bill that you received, hopefully in the past few days, good, bad, or indifferent, you'll notice the breakdown of the rate. It's a little bit odd this year. That was due to just an error in figuring out the portions. The tax rate itself is right. $14.12 is the rate. However, the distribution between the town, the county, and the school wasn't that, the math on that wasn't done 100% correct. So you'll notice, I think the school was at like 55%, the town was at like 40 some odd percent, and the county was at like 3%. What happened was it just was miscalculated. They were looking at the overall expenditures versus the net expenditures for the town, and so that kind of it tweaked or it misrepresented the allocation. On your second half tax bill, the correction will be there. On the town's website, we've got an update that's going to be flowing out there, so it'll show the actual correct allocation. It should be that the schools are at 68% of your tax rate, which is where they pretty much always have tracked. And then the town's at about 28.5%. And the county's at 3.5%. So that second half tax bill will show those proper ratios, but I just wanted people to see that if it looked a little odd, that's because it was. So it's repaired, and like I said, the tax rate itself is fine, and that's all accurate. It's just how it was divvied up. Looking at the revaluation, based on the conversation that the council had 2 weeks ago, and when the tax assessor was here and trying to talk about what the impacts are of the reval, I thought it might be important for council and our good citizens to understand what the real impact of the reval itself was, versus saying, like a lot of it at the last meeting was talking about how it impacted and how like so many properties had their taxes go up by this amount or were within this bracket here. Well, that included the annual increase in the budgets for the town, the county, and the schools. So that would be your normal, like the impact of your normal tax rate increase. So what I thought it might be important to do is a little bit of a deeper dive and an analysis of the assessment database to better understand as to where, like, what did the reval really mean, as far as if everything was flat and nothing changed on the spending side, how did that get distributed across all the properties in town? So what I did was I took last year's budget and this year's budget and looked at the net overamount to be raised, and then found the difference between the two and figured out what the percentage increase was going to be from last year to this year. Now, offsetting that is, and that was roughly, okay, let me get to this. Offsetting that is the normal growth that we have. So if, like, year over year, houses get built, lots get split, people do renovations, new personal property comes to town that's taxable, things like that change, and we know on average it's about 1.2 to 1.5% annually is what the value increase happens. So we take that into effect as well, and then you also look at, okay, the school budget increased, or the town went up by about 2.5% this year. The school went up by 7 3/4%, and the county increased by 7.6%. So what I did was I took that amount there and figured out the impact of the new value, and the net impact of those three budget increases was about 6.3%. So we stripped that out. So that kind of brings us back to flatline. You could compare apples and apples at that point in time. So then I took that and figured out what the new rate was. Well, long story short, the impact of the town, school, and county budget increases resulted in about $1 increase on the tax rate. So without those increases, it would have been $13.12 versus $14.12, which is what the tax rate is. So after that, I took that new rate and said, okay, now I know with the budget increases stripped out, what's the true impact of the reval, meaning that it was revenue neutral and all that jazz. But now I could say, okay, if this house went up by this amount, what would it be if there was no tax increase? So then I took that math and I applied it to 3,923 properties. That's what we have in town that are taxed. So, and I know if I'm glazing you over, please forgive me, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of, to try to see where it's at. But looking at that and comparing what the impact was due to the value change, it changed the picture a little bit. So the net, so looking at all those properties, there was properties that had a decrease in their taxes. If just because of the reval, there was roughly about 1,630, or about just under 42% of the properties had their taxes decrease, or would have had them decrease if everything else had stayed flat. 16 properties had zero change, like it would have been like to the penny the same. That was like 0.4%. So that was an easy one. But then really the lion's share, like or good. Let's look at the increases side. About from 0.1% up to 5%, there was like 1,272 properties, or 32.4%. So if you think about it, that's roughly about 74% of the properties either saw their property taxes either decrease or have 5% or less increase. So that kind of shows you the impact as to how it hits with the year-over-year budget increases. Now between from 5.1 to 10%, there's about 13.7%, or 536 properties. From 10.1 to 15 is just under 200 properties at 5% of that. And then anything from 15.1 to 20%, which is, there was 84 properties there, or 2%. And then 20% or greater, or 40% or greater, there was roughly 1.4 and 3.3%. On those larger numbers, those are usually, if it's a big number like that, that was a new house. Something was built at Cumberland Crossing, or over at the pit, a new house, a new lot, something that had a fairly low assessment the year before, or was not assessed before. So that comes in with like a very large percentage change year over year. So I thought that was, hopefully that's going to be interesting. We put that on we're going to have that on the town's website. Let's see, is it this one? There we go, awesome, thank you. So so we're going to have these graphics here on the website. This one's already there. This kind of shows the impact of the reval, as I was talking about earlier, with all the growth put in there. So that kind of shows you 3,900 properties. This is the impact, like 20% saw decreased taxes, 1% no change, 12% of 1 to 5%. So that kind of offsets that 74% of properties that would have seen it. But that's, again, you take out that 6% of a change, and that kind of gives you the bottom line. So that's a lot to digest, but and then the second one I have here is with the revaluation in there as to where we're going to be. So we'll have that. If people have further questions, I'm always happy to answer them. But I was trying to dig in deeper after the last one, because you kind of want to know, like, what's that baseline that you start at, and then going forward, people can at least have a feel as to where they're going to be at. And it kind of tracks comparably to what anecdotally assessors will say, like a third go up, a third stay the same, and a third go down. It's pretty close to that. If you think about the first two categories, with the 74% that saw it either go down or go up to like a 5% range. So that's where I'm at, Madam Chair. I'm happy to take any questions for sure.
Sure, go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, you take all the property tax revenue collected. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's probably a couple million. Like, how many millions goes to operate the town? How many millions go to the county? And how many millions go to the school? And if you don't have it right now, Matt, that's fine. I think probably some of the people in the town might want to know that.
Oh, sure. Give me just a quick sec, and I can get there too.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stump you.
You're all right. I'm not completely
Yeah, the
stumped. I'm partially
percentages.
stumped.
Dollar amounts are helpful as well, so I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Let's see here. think you should have that. Let's see. Okay, so the school assessment on that, Councilor Mahalik, thank you for your question. The local education appropriation is roughly 20, I gotta zoom this in, sorry. It's easier to do that. This is
my
my
glasses.
manual zoom, sorry. About 28.75 million is the annual school appropriation. The town is roughly 9.6 million, and the county itself is about 1.5 million.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Follow-on question on the same thing. When I look at the numbers that we have in our council pack for the 26 actuals, and I see that, right, we've spent, the actuals for the year are 44,276 million. And if I take away the capital reserve fund, for example, 887, and then I look at the MSAD expense is 26,676, 967, doesn't get me to 72%. It gets me more to like 60% of the budget. What am I missing?
68% of the budget.
68% of the budget. It still doesn't, the math doesn't work, right? It's a lower percentage for the school percentage than 68%.
Yeah. TIF impact.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah, does that, because that comes, yeah, that comes out of the equation.
But it comes out of the town, right? So the TIFs offset the town expenditure.
Yes, yeah.
But
So
the
that
town expenditure, though, for the year is, so what the net is $9 million, but the town expenditure for the year is actually, if you're saying there's $4 million in TIF, the expenditure's more like $13 million.
I think, just a quick second, I gotta get back to that spreadsheet.
Yeah,
that I just had open.
yeah.
While you're contemplating that, Bill, I think I'd add a little bit of more fuel to that. So the municipal budget is 2.5%. The school budget is 7.75%, but that's divided by two towns. And then the county budget is a 7.6% increase over 15
From last year to this year.
So, but I guess what I'd like to see is the dollar value of those three percentages, and I don't need that tonight, but what is the dollar value impact of those three budgets? Because you take the school impact and you divide it by two towns, you take the county budget and you divide it by all the towns in a county, so the budget went up 7.6%, but the impact to the town of Cumberland is a small number. You know what I'm driving at?
Yeah, yeah, obviously the big driver on that would be, ultimately, like, I would say this year, like last year, yeah, I guess you could see like the county impact's like 3.5% to the overall tax rate, so it's,
Right, right.
that's
So
really small. as
My,
far as
my,
impact.
my revaluation was basically flat, if you will. I I think comparing it with my neighbors and other people in the valuation doubled, but and it threw off a $1,500 bill, and so I'm concerned that if the spending rate for next year, it's going to throw off another $1,500 bill. So I think I'd like to see a way to, instead of looking at percentage, look at the actual numbers.
Yeah, yeah, we want to look at that early.
Yeah. Yes.
Is-
Yeah. That's. I think
Bottom
that's
line on
where I'm driving.
And then our, let's see, I'm trying to, let's see. To Councilor Follett's question, yeah, on some of that, like, you'll find the, let's see, 2013.
Yeah, Mr. Manager, it's just really looking at and when I look at the actuals, right, and I look at all the line items and the actuals.
Is that at the, in the packet, which part are you looking at? if you
So
don't
when I
mind
look at total expenses for, say, the 2026 actuals, right? And then I look at the MSAD 51 expenses, right? So our overall actuals for the year are 44.25 million, right? And MSAD 51 out of that is 677 million. So I just when I look at it, I mean, I'm expecting that I'm missing something in the math here, you know, just as someone who's new looking at the budgets. But I just think it's one of those things on messaging, right? When we say it's like part of our municipal budget is this is how much for the school department, this is how much, right? It's kind of depending on how you look at it, you can come up with a very different story.
Also, if you take into account, if you're going to bring in TIFs into it, how much that TIF sheltering benefits the school as far as funding goes, there's that trade-off as well. And I don't know if we break even somewhere along the way to where that math doesn't matter anymore, but as far as breaking it out on the tax bill, yeah, those are the numbers. But I appreciate you letting us know that the percentages were off and correcting us. Yes?
To your question, subtract out the non-tax revenue, which means you also, so the number you're looking at on your sheet for the financials is the net impact for what we need to pull for the school. So basically it's their amount minus revenues. When you're looking at what that total is, the 44 million, you're forgetting to subtract out our non-tax revenues, which is the 9-point-something million that we had budgeted. So
Thanks. Yeah, I figured there was a better explanation.
Yeah, and then on part of that too, I just found the email that I was looking for as well, where I did a little bit. So on the school side of it, it was 28,745, 465, and then the gross overall appropriation was 40. Like that needed to be raised by property taxes was 42,536. So we took the school number, divided it by the overall net to be raised. That got us at roughly 68%. On the county, it was 1,495,000 divided by that same baseline number of 42.6 or 42.5, and that's got us at our 3.5%. And then the remainder is roughly that, roughly $12 million there at the 28.5% that was allocated to the town, or what needed to be raised. And then part of that too, there's overlay in there as well, which is basically it's a little bit of a gap that takes place surrounding. That's a whole other. I could glaze the whole room over if I get into the.
So a little more education on my part. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate
No,
it.
I'm happy to go through it too in depth if you ever wanna. We can lay all kinds of paper out on my desk.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
So Matt, we saw the breakdown of, 40-ish%, saw, because of the reval, if you do not everything equal, saw a decrease, less than 0.5% saw no change, and then, almost a third saw up to a 5% change. So this was a reval after, 18 years? Is there I know you're talking about the sort of the adage of like a third, a third, a third. Of that increase, is there a rough, it should be, if we do it every 2 years or every, a much shorter amount of time, that increase should usually only be for the vast majority up to this percentage, and then realizing that you'll get the 40+% when you turn vacant land and put a however many $100,000 million house on it, that's obviously going to change a lot. But for most people, that houses have been around forever. What should we be? Can we look forward enough to be able to say, like, yeah, we should roughly see if it's going to go up, it's probably going to go up reval alone by X amount, realizing that the budget is a whole nother increase potentially.
Yeah, that's a great question, Councilman Magoon. oftentimes where you look at that is you could say, if you did it more regularly or more frequently, like every 2 years, which is kind of the plan going forward, you will see not gigantic swings or large swings between assessments. So that doesn't, like, time gives space, I guess would be a way to look at it. So space between properties, if they're undervalued or overvalued, that gap or that space between those, that discrepancy grows over time. So if, let's say your rate of appreciation is maybe 4% in the market, 3% in the market, those differences where one property may be valued more than another, and when one's a little bit lesser valued, that 3% grows faster as that difference enhances. So if you did it every couple of years, you'd look at more of a stabilized tax rate as well as stabilized or lesser impacts. So you don't have that swing, like Councilor Vail going up $1,500 on his property taxes as a result of the reval. Looking at things like that, that's smoothed out a lot more. So there may be, you know, I guess you could say the adjustments aren't as significant when you do them more frequently, because you're not letting it get too far away from, you know, most of the properties being equitably assessed. So it's just a question of refreshing that, their overall values, and maybe making that adjustment and finding some corrections that have to take place. But it's not as dramatic as saying, yeah, waiting 18 to 20 years. It's usually, you know, sadly, it's a whiplash effect, or at least it sure darn feels like it.
So should we be thinking like, you know, just reval alone, that 5-ish% is?
Wouldn't be too far.
No.
Wouldn't be too far afield.
Okay.
I can see that.
The next question is, this might just be something I'd be interested in, but would there be a way to put a calculator on the website where if you say, you know, all right, my taxes are, you know, went up this much, how much of that was the reval, how much of that was just the budget? And to, you know, to break it down with, you know, the budget increase caused by this much, but then within that budget increase, you know, this much for the school, this much for the county, this, you know, and all, to really see like where those changes are from. I don't know how much use that would be if people would actually use it, but I think it could be interesting to say, you know, okay, it went up by this much. Well, yeah, because your house wasn't revalued in, you know, 18 years, or because the budget went up by X%.
It's a combination of both. I know it sounds funny, but the classes of property that some appreciate greater than others do. So like that first year of a reval, like that, when you reset the bar, so to speak, or reset the floor, you're closing those gaps that really magnified over that time period. So it's hard to say what it would have been, because just because like a waterfront property may appreciate at a greater rate than, say, a property next to, you know, next to, like, I don't know, next to the turnpike, for instance, where you know, some neighborhoods appreciate better than others, at greater rates than others do. So that one's hard to tell when it's been that much time. Going forward, you could look at that and say, well, if you know the overall market has changed like 2 to 3% a year for the past 3 years, and you're gonna know that you're gonna go up by about this amount of percentage, and then you can look at it. But then then you still have to do that same performative behavior of saying, okay, you know, even during that time period, if the tax rate went up or budgeted spending went up by X amount per year over that period of time, that has to be factored in as well.
But for this year, from last year's you know, taxable amount to, you know, this year's taxable amount, can we put something in there that says like, okay, you know, it went from 100,000 to 500,000, but your taxes only went up by X amount, like, you know, most of your tax increase, X% of your tax increase was the reval, and the rest of it was a budget.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I've got a spreadsheet that kind of shows that.
I don't know if it might be interesting to put that, if we could easily put that on where all the math is done in the background.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
shoot
put
it
in
as a
simple
PDF.
numbers, and then it spits out, you know.
If we do not have the time or person available to do something like that on the townwide level? Are people welcome to come to you as individuals and ask you those questions, and
Oh,
you
sure,
can break
or-
out that
Yeah, either
amount for
that
them?
or talk to Clint, our assessor. He should be able to.
Yeah.
I'd prefer if they spoke to Clint, because if there's, if there may be
Delegate.
bigger fish to fry.
Right.
That, if someone has, some of those questions generally tend to snowball into other questions, and he's our assessor, so.
You shouldn't have done this exercise then, because
Oh,
you've just shown your
Old
hand.
habits die hard,
I'm
Madam
kidding.
Chair. I did it for 30
Yeah.
years, so.
I really appreciate you breaking all this down, because I know I came away from that conversation wondering what the heck, like, where do we fall out in the breakdown, like of, 30, 30, 30, what it actually was it? So at first I was a little shocked, of course, like, wow, that was actually an enormous increase for everyone. But then as now you've broken that out and kind of sanitized the data so we can see really exactly what the reval did. So it's enlightening for sure. And I'm glad
thank
that
you.
we have that on the website, or will, because I know everyone else is probably wondering the same thing.
Well, to be honest, it's something that we're, you want to be really sensitive to, because even a dollar impact on anybody is significant.
Right.
And we take that seriously, because it has different impacts across all different spectrums of life that we know. So you got to take that, you want to have a high level of sensitivity to those impacts and
Right.
where they're at.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we move on? Alrighty.
Thank
That was
you.
a big manager's report. I'm like,
Sorry.
oh, wow, we're only on, I'm just kidding.
My biggest in 2.5 years, so sorry. That's why we had a skinny agenda.
That's all your speaking time for the year now. You're done. I'm just kidding. Okay. So now we'll move on to public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. If you want to talk about an agenda item, you can do that later. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person, and rebuttal comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Do we have anyone who would like to make a comment? Yeah, just come on up, let us know your name and where you live.
Okay, my name's Danielle. I live in Cumberland, and it's on the agenda, but I guess it's when I'm supposed to come up. It's about the library. Talking about the library. Thank you for your time in advance. When my family and I moved to Cumberland 3 years ago, Prince Memorial Library was one of the first places we visited. I was immediately drawn to the atrium and its comfy chairs and the bright light coming through the windows. Pretty soon I started to craft there at night, and I met friends crafting also. While we have family in Maine, we didn't know anyone in town. And I went looking for community, and boy howdy did I find it at Prince Memorial Library. So while the library is meaningful to lots of people for lots of different reasons, I just wanted to give a sample of how the library has enriched my family's life. My family, especially my foodie son, look forward to Cook the Book every month. We pick the recipes in advance, and my son gets excited to bring the dish he made to share. He also participates in the Thursday night Dungeons and Dragons group and in the Tween Book Club at the library. He routinely walks or bikes to the library after school and spends time in the teen center, like a lot. If you ask him what his top 3 favorite places are in town, the library will be in that top 3. Food Stop is number 1. This summer, I participated, this summer he went to California for a month, and he didn't get to go to the library. And one of the Mondays that he was gone was a day that we had bingo, and he nearly cried when he found out he was going to miss a bingo night. We all love bingo. He's looking at me funny, but he was devastated.
I would have cried too. It's okay.
And for people who are planners, there are usually 4 Mondays in July, because there's only 4 weeks in a month. But in 2028, there will be 5 Mondays in July. So there will be a bonus bingo night. And if that means anything to you, it means a lot to me. So I just wanted you to know that. Right when we moved here, I started nannying for a local family, and the enclosed toddler room at the library was a godsend, like, Tig had said, or Councilmember Filson had said. It was great to just have a change of pace, get some fresh air, walk, new toys. It was a really wonderful space to have. A few months after I moved here, I joined a book club in Westbrook, and the first few books they picked were always available at the library, even like obscure titles, and I sort of got to thinking this might be a magic library. Anyway, so now I'm in the monthly book club on Saturday mornings at the library, and it's really wonderful to sit in the Prince room when I could be sleeping on a Saturday, but I love to go and listen to what the ladies have to say about that month's book, and it's really been, I think, a value add to my life for sure. I also love the Prince room because it's very unique and architecturally interesting, and I know like building plans might change, but that room it feels historic, and so it's just nice to be in there and be touched with history. I also participated in the yearly summer reading challenge and the 18 prompts in 12 months. And if you are a fan of reading things you might not read, one of the prompts was read a memoir or biography of someone you think you wouldn't like. And I read Britney Spears' memoir, and I still don't like her, but I was glad to have read it. And I wouldn't have otherwise without the library. Let's see. We also make sure to attend, I can't wait for the Bananagrams tournament in February. I do practice all year long. It doesn't really help me, but I do practice. And the Bananagrams tournament is highly coveted prizes of like banana bread, banana socks. Like, it's a wonderful event. This guy last year came from Bath because he put it on his calendar, drove all the way from Bath, and he won. Anyway, we also make sure to attend as many special events as we can. We really appreciated the Gone Guys documentary that was put on earlier this year. The community plate storytelling steppers and the Star Party. I'm really bummed that the weather did not cooperate this year. What I wanted to say about the Star Party in particular is that it's pretty magical to lay on a blanket, surrounded by people in your community, all looking at the stars, all interested in learning about the stars, and being there for ice cream. Okay, so like you're around people that care about the same things you do is what I wanted to say. I want to end by shouting out my love and appreciation to all of the library staff. One of the biggest reasons this town feels like home to my family is because of them, because they made us feel welcome and engaged. I heard about the library being on the agenda today, and this is also my 13th wedding anniversary, and I love the library so much that I should be out celebrating, but instead I'm here nervously talking about how much I love the library. Anyway, it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to be here for it and to enjoy it. And for my family, it's just been like a gem of a place. So thank you for your support of the library.
Thank you, Danielle, and happy anniversary. Does anyone else want to try to follow that up? I'm just kidding.
I don't know if I can follow her. I don't have much to say, but my name is Barb Hauk, and I am a friend of the library. And I just wanted to say, Stacy said pretty much everything, and I don't know what else I can say about her, but just our mission is to raise funds to expand, enhance, and support all the library programs, events, and services for our community. And most of our money comes from the appeal, but we have, I think, around 20 volunteers who weekly sort the books, who work in the garden, do the major book sale. They basically do anything that the library needs to make the librarian's job easier. And we just are so, they always tell us they're grateful for us, but we are so incredibly grateful for them. They're so very friendly, inclusive for all of us, and they help make our jobs easier. We're so happy to be able to provide them with the money so they can do the wonderful programs that they come up with. I don't think there's a more gratifying volunteer experience that you could have, and we're always looking for more. So if anybody wants to spread the word, we would love that.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up for public comment? Going once, twice. Alrighty. We will then move on to legislation and policy. There will be an opportunity for public comment per Article 2, Section 7 of the Town Charter. There will be an opportunity for public comment on each item on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. We will start with 26-094 to hold a public hearing to consider and act on amendments to Chapter 48 Coastal Waters of the Cumberland Code of Ordinances as recommended by the Ordinance Committee. And I believe we have, do we have Chief Rumsey here to talk about that?
We certainly do, Madam Chair.
Had a hunch So we will have Chief Rumsey introduce the amendments, and perhaps afterward, maybe Councilor Vail, Chair of the Ordinance Committee, might want to have some additional Ordinance Committee background that he might want to share.
Thank you, councilors. I believe in your packet you have a memo from myself and a copy of the proposed ordinance changes. So just in brief, what we're asking you to consider approving tonight is a few changes to the ordinance, which would do the following. Explicitly prohibit the placement of a float on a mooring for any purpose other than commercial fishing. We actually updated this ordinance language a little while ago, but there was some concern following our update that the language wasn't clear enough to ensure that no one would ever try to put a float onto a mooring for anything other than commercial fishing. And what we're concerned about is something like a float that would be placed on a mooring to be used for a party spot or a tiny house or, you know, whatever kind of potential other use there could be other than mooring a boat or putting a commercial fishing platform out there. So you have that for your consideration. Also, the Harbor Masters and the Coastal Waters Commission for a number of years have been talking about ways to maximize the use of the number of moorings that we have in Broad Cove, and have observed that use of moorings that have been permitted is at about 50% each year. And so one of the measures that we are proposing is to require mooring holders to actually put a boat on their mooring. So that we started out, we just gave, you know, when we first created the Broad Cove Reserve mooring field, we would just permit you to have a mooring, and then we didn't do anything else. Then we made a change to require you, if you received a mooring, to actually install a mooring. So what we've learned is that there are plenty of folks that will receive a mooring permit, pay an installer to go out and put a mooring out there without ever having the intention to put a boat on there. They may have a mooring in some other mooring field. They may be happy to just take that mooring, put it out there and have it sort of as a hedge against, you know, some potential desire to have it for future use. So we have this pretty big mooring field that just isn't being used by folks for mooring their boats. So we are proposing that change, and then proposing a third change, which basically states that if you are on our wait list, and as we go through assigning moorings in the Broad Cove Reserve mooring field every spring, if we offer you a mooring and you say, thank you, but I don't want to take a mooring this year, either my boat's on order or just had a baby or whatever the reason might be, we'll allow you to pass and keep your spot on that wait list. If we ask you again, you can pass and keep your spot on that wait list. If we offer you a third time that year, you have to accept the mooring, install a mooring, and put a boat on your mooring, or else we remove you from the wait list. You can immediately reapply and go back on the wait list, but you would then be at the bottom of the list. The Harbor Masters and myself are hopeful that if we pass the two particular recommended changes that have to do with the way we expect folks to use moorings in the Broad Cove mooring field, that we will have a much more full mooring field and that we'll have a much shorter wait list. Both of the things that we think would be really great for the Cumberland community. So happy to go into any more depth or answer any questions that you may have about any of that language, but that's a brief overview for you.
So two things. One, just to clarify with the wait list, that's asking once a year, correct? So the first year you ask, they can pass. Then the next next ask would be the second year, and then the third year it's take it or leave it. Okay. And then with the floats, is that really a safety concern of not having non-commercial fishing floats out there in terms of, you know, people diving off a dock, you know, a float or something like that, and then not seeing other boats come in and all? So sort of why just commercial fishing and not anything else?
I think safety concern, and then potential proliferation concern. If we start allowing them on permitted moorings, then there could suddenly be a bunch of them that could have other hazards for creating issues with our ability to monitor what's going on. And again, our former harbor master had heard of some communities in the U.S. where people were putting floats on moorings and then putting tiny houses on them, or small structures that people were basically like renting out as an Airbnb or VRBO, having parties out on those platforms. And so it was never the intention of our mooring ordinance to do anything other than moor a boat. And when we discussed limiting it to just mooring a boat, we realized we needed to also allow lawful commercial fishing activities, and sometimes those do require a float. So has not been an issue here, trying to head off a potential issue that we saw coming down the pike from other areas of the country.
I'm just curious what analysis has been done to understand why people aren't using their moorings. And also, I'm not on the Coastal Waters Commission anymore, but when I was, my understanding was that not everyone that had a mooring also had a dinghy on the float. Is that still the case?
So if I understand your two-part question, yes, we did make an attempt to understand a little bit about what was going on out there by doing a poll. We polled all the folks that had a mooring, I think it was 2 years ago, to ask them, if you had a mooring, did you install your mooring? Did you put a boat on the mooring? If not, why not? And we didn't get great response. We can't compel people to respond back to us. And so the response was, between yes, I did, no, I didn't, my boat was in the shop being repaired all summer, or busy with the family, or I had my boat somewhere else for the summer. So it didn't really create a clear picture for us to understand. And I assume because if there were some people that received a mooring, received a mooring permit, installed a mooring, and never intended to put a boat on it because they have a mooring somewhere else, they're not going to respond to the poll and tell us that, probably. So it didn't help us carve our path forward, or help us chart our path forward to that extent. And then the second part of your question, I knew I should have been able to remember it in a very short period of time.
Dinghies, but on the
Yes.
first part, sorry, it just seems installing a mooring is really expensive. And so it seems just like a big amount of money to put forth with not having the intention of putting a boat on it. And so I'm just wondering, is there something else that could possibly be going on?
I thought so as well, and I'm not a ocean-faring person, but my understanding is that owning a boat, operating a boat, mooring a boat, especially depending on where you're doing all those things, is very expensive. And so the prospect of purchasing a mooring and then having a mooring installer put it in for you is probably in the realm of hundreds of dollars, when owning and operating a boat on Maine's coast is much more expensive than that. And I think compared to what folks are paying in some of the mooring fields in Falmouth and Yarmouth, it's a very small amount of money compared to what they may be spending somewhere else. So I think comparatively, it's not a ton of money. So that's been sort of our analysis on that.
Okay, I guess my second question was around dinghy access. So the folks that have moorings, that does not guarantee, or they don't necessarily have a dinghy on the dock, right?
So, speaking this? Okay, so we have currently approved 48 moorings. And out of those 48 approved moorings, all but 5 of those moorings may have a dinghy docked at our town floats if they want to.
Okay.
So up to 43 of our mooring holders could dock a dinghy there.
And that doesn't include the, the dry racks? Or the
That's correct.
dry storage, right?
That's correct. It does not include we call them personal watercraft storage racks,
Yep.
because it could be a paddleboard, canoe, kayak that's up there.
Okay.
So as one of the folks that, as the chief and I have discussed, to answer your question, Tig, I think one of the reasons that folks get moorings there and keep moorings is in the past it's been very, very challenging to get a mooring in Casco Bay. So, for example, if you were in Falmouth or in South Freeport or something like that, there is no way you're going to get a mooring. So myself, who moved my mooring from Falmouth to Cumberland with the intent of putting my boat on the mooring, which, you know, anyone who knows, my boat has been in dry dock in my yard for more than a few years. But I think the changes that you propose, Chief, are good in that, you know, you get you need to use the mooring and have, you know, a chance or two to say, you know, to continue to use it if you're off for a year or something going on, and then being able to go back on the list again right off the bat, I think is a big deal. I think people just keep the moorings because it has been historically very challenging to get one, and they also have ambitions to have their boat in the water, which doesn't always work. So, and for example, if you do, to Chief's point, if you do have a mooring, like I did, it doesn't cost a lot to get that. Once you get the mooring moved, it doesn't cost a lot each year to keep it going. So it's a pretty cheap option to maintain
put
an
one in.
option, to maintain it
Right, but
year
the
on year. It's pretty
Putting
cheap.
it in isn't cheap.
It depends. Yeah.
Or, sorry, I don't know if we're
Yeah,
doing
we don't want to get
public-
into that
public-
debate. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just as a piece, I think the changes to the ordinance are good, and I definitely support.
We're
them.
not quite there yet, though. This is just question moment. So if anyone has any other questions, then we'll open the public hearing, close it, and then we'll discuss. So any further questions
Not yet.
or comments before we open the public hearing? Okay, cool. Let's do this official bit here. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come up and speak on this topic, the floor is open. Anybody want to talk about moorings? Great. The public hearing is now closed. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about, Chair of the Ordinance Committee?
This is an item that came from the Coastal Water Commission, the harbor master and the police chief. The ordinance committee, as a matter of policy, reviews it. But this is not something that the ordinance committee drafted, but we have supported it, and it came out of the ordinance committee with a should pass recommendation. So the recommendation is from the ordinance committee that this be adopted.
I have a question if no one else does. So I think we're at 57 waiting list applicants or something, and we've got 48 moorings. Do you anticipate the people on the wait list also going to be kind of like active users? Or I'm just wondering, I'd be glad to see some turnover on the wait list, but what if the wait list people also are going to pass? I'm just wondering if we reach a point where we have no wait list, but we also have no one using the moorings. What would we do then?
Well, our intention is that at the end of this year, provided that you all vote to make these changes to the ordinance, we would be having conversations with the roughly 50% of current mooring holders who haven't put a boat on their mooring to say, listen, there's been a change to the ordinance, which is going to require you to have a mooring. This year is fine, but next year that's going to be an expectation. Do you reasonably expect to have a boat on your mooring next year? Do you want to talk about surrendering that mooring? And we think that that's going to probably have some people bow out and not come back again next year. Then we would start on the wait list, and if folks, as we mentioned, passed, we would work our way down the wait list. And so when we call the wait list this time, we would be saying, your number's up, you're welcome to have a mooring if you want to. Keep in mind, this is the expectation.
Right.
And then folks will have to make their decision then, take the mooring, get a boat on, or I'll pass. And then we do think that those two changes are going to result in a number of people just self-selecting to not be on the wait list anymore, and that it's going to result in a more full mooring field. That's going to result in issues with dinghy dockage. We realize there will be an increase in dinghy dockage space this coming spring when the floats are expanded. And then we will, I will work with the Coastal Waters Commission to be keeping an eye on things down there. Have we solved one problem and created another one? How do we sort of keep our hand on the throttle for that moving forward? But we think that it'll be a good way to increase the use of that resource for the town, be fair to folks that have been on the waiting list for a long time. And, you know, I would love to think we would reach a point where there isn't a wait list anymore, but I suspect we'll have one of some length for the foreseeable future.
Anybody have any comments or opinions or
Ready to give
take
you
a
a
motion?
Oh, I have a lot of comments and opinions. Sorry.
Go for it then.
Okay, so a couple of things. First, so I think that rather than removing someone entirely from the wait list, it might be a better move to ask them, one, do you still want to be on here? And they might just say, no, thank you. Take me off. I sold my boat. But what we could also do, which would actually be more consistent with what we do on the Shellfish Commission, is they get moved automatically to the bottom of the wait list. Because I'm on the wait list, right? I've been on the wait list for a while. Our boat is in dry dock. Our engine is screwed. And unfortunately, we can't afford right now to buy an $8,000 new engine. We can't. Do we have every intention of putting our boat on a mooring when we are in a more financially stable position? Like, absolutely. But what'll happen is that if we're at the top of the wait list and we say, no, it's not gonna happen this year, it's not gonna happen next year, and boat people who are real boat people know that boat problems are problems. They're money pits. They're not something that you should necessarily get because you will constantly be looking at your wallet and saying, why did I do this? You can probably agree with me at least on that, right? But you know, like, we come off the wait list and my husband's just gonna reapply, get put to the wait list, we'll have to pay the fee again. And like, I don't know, I don't think I don't love that. Even though I know it's a very, very small fee, for the residents, I don't think that's cool, and I think that it would be more consistent for our code if we were to do it the way that we do for the Shellfish, with the Shellfish Commission. The other part in here that I don't love is, the harbor master may refuse to renew any mooring assignment or permit in the Broad Cove Reserve mooring field that is not used by the permit holder for one full boating season. So I'm trying to understand, like, enforcement here. Like, how do you know whether or not someone is putting their boat there? The harbor master here might not be the same type of harbor master that we have in a much more robust waterfront. Like, we don't have a boat, right?
Correct.
And so how are we determining, because this language I think is sort of subjective, like, so how are you determining what the use looks like?
So, great question. And so what we've done this year, I anticipate is what we would be doing in future years, is that in the spring when the moorings go out, a tag goes on the mooring that just says, hey, when you put your boat on this mooring, would you remove this tag and reach out to the harbor master? So then folks get their boat out, they go to moor their boat, they see that tag, they remove it, they reach out to Officer Merriman, our harbor master, and say, hey, Matt, my boat's on the mooring. And Matt says, check mark, that mooring is being used. We go out and inspect our moorings. We're trying to do it about 4 times over the summer. And so I think at the end of a boating season, if there's a mooring that has a tag on it that has not been removed during the times they did their 4 checks, they never saw a boat on that mooring, there's a pretty good argument that that mooring has not been used during that full boating season. And then Matt would be having a conversation with that mooring holder. What's happening? What's going on with you? And we wrote the language to be flexible for Matt. So when Matt talks to someone, if the person says, I had a death in the family, I've been battling a serious health concern, or whatever the case may be, that Matt can provide some grace to that person to understand that and let them push it out by 1 more year, or just have the conversation with them about what's the deal? Where's your boat? Is it, is it in dry dock? Do you have something, in place for repairs? Do you have an expectation that boat's going to be there again in the near future? And then just work through that with them based on, I think, conversation and an expectation that folks are going to be candid and helpful, and that if he needs to, and he tells a person that based on whatever the totality of the circumstances is, that he's not going to renew their mooring, that's his decision, but his decision can be appealed to the entire Coastal Waters Commission. So there's good due process involved if he makes a decision after having that conversation, again, looking at all the facts of the case, and he says no, then they can present themselves before the Coastal Waters Commission and make their case to that group, who can either sustain his decision or overturn it. And I just would add, I think, to to add on to some of the other comments that were made, that this is very similar to language that's being used in Yarmouth and Falmouth. We're obviously very close to their harbor masters and talk with them on a regular basis to bounce ideas off of them and ask them for recommendations for language. So they both use language that's very similar to this and think that it's worked well for them. It was also reviewed by the Coastal Waters Commission and our town council. So could be wordsmithed, I guess, but it does provide flexibility for our harbor master, and it does provide due process for anyone that feels aggrieved by a decision made by our harbor master.
I would, if I may, I mean, I would argue that Yarmouth and Falmouth are very different harbors than Broad Cove. There's a lot more traffic. There's a lot more use. It's just like they're much busier. So I'm not sure that it's apples to apples. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I think the benchmarking is great. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's unreasonable. But that's me. I would be more comfortable with at least folks having the option or being put to the bottom of the wait list, or asked if they want to stay on the wait list, and then move to the bottom, which is more consistent with what we do with shellfish. And I don't know, like the tagging system, I guess I understand it, but someone could go out there, remove the tag, like on their paddleboard, and then they've ticked the box, you know? Like it seems a little, it just kind of seems like I don't love it. It seems kind of arbitrary. It doesn't really seem like it's solving the problem, which is we want people to use this. We want it to be a more bustling harbor, and I'm not sure this is going to solve that problem. So I wouldn't be in support of it as written.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I
What do you think
mean,
about it?
yes, I understand your questions, Councilor Phillison. But you know, I think there's a, you know, as someone who is, you know, potentially going to go and have this change affect me, and I'm sure others, I can see other moorings out there that I know of folks that, you know, you can tell that a mooring's not been used when the grass is on the,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
It's sitting there, right? I went out and got my tag off the mooring with my kayak the other day, right? So I think that this will help move things along, and I think there's flexibility in there. One of the conversations that we had in the ordinance committee was there was initially a penalty where you couldn't reapply to the list for 3 years if you decided not to have the mooring, and we took that off. Right, Chief Rumsey took that off, and I think this in here too. Whereas if you choose not to go on or accept the mooring and you just go right back onto the, you know, you start at the bottom of the list again. Right. I mean, I think that's pretty fair.
But
all in
it
all.
is inconsistent with what we do in our other code. So would we want to do that for the shellfish as well?
Yeah, I don't know why we wouldn't, but yeah. So at least I don't know. I think this would be. I would like to see this move forward. You know, if others think we need to tweak it, great. But for my world, I think it works.
Councilor Bill.
I think one of the things to understand is the capacity of Broad Cove is not nearly being utilized to anywhere near its capacity. And as people use it, we have the ability to expand it. We certainly have the ability to issue more permits and change as necessary. So I think for tonight, we should move this ahead. This is a recommendation from an appointed committee that has done the due diligence there. The ordinance committee has reviewed it. If we find that there's something that's not working, we can always go back and request the Coastal Commission to re-examine this and come back with a different recommendation. But I'm ready to move it tonight.
I'll give my 2 cents before someone inevitably gives a motion. I understand your concerns, especially around the subjectivity of the language of the harbor master's discretion. And I know in this case, it's for a person who's got, you know, good things in mind. There could be a harbor master working for the forces of evil who wants to go around and target individuals for their moorings, who knows. But I do appreciate that you mentioned the appeals process, because I think that's where any of that would play out. And again, you would hope that the Coastal Waters Commission is also operating in the best interests of everyone and having some ethics there, which I know they do. So that makes me feel better about that language piece at least. And then I think it's pretty fair to let a person pass for 2 years and then they have that third time to accept. I would be in favor of just tweaking the wording a little bit on where it says when an applicant is offered a mooring for the third time, they must accept the offered mooring assignment or their name will be moved to the bottom of the waiting list or something instead of just being removed from the waiting list. I can see that being a little tweak, but I wouldn't hold this whole thing back based on that wording. I would just ask that we just revisit that sentence again sometime soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of it on the whole. If anybody has anything else to say, go for it. Otherwise, someone make a motion, perhaps.
I'll make a motion. So,
Yeah, go for it.
item number 26094, I move to amend Chapter 48 Coastal Waters of the Cumberland Code of Ordinances as recommended by the Ordinance Committee.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, councilors.
Thanks, Chief.
All righty. Next, we have 26-095 to authorize fiscal year 2026 end-of-year transfers. This is our annual housekeeping item, and if we would like, who wants to talk about it? I'm guessing Finance Director
Yep.
Bartolomeo.
We do,
Give a little,
we do have our
give a little intro
fantastic
on this.
finance director here this evening, so Colleen is more than
Let's-
ready to talk
Let's
about it.
consult the expert in the room.
Good evening, councilors. As discussed during our Finance Committee meeting, we showed a budget surplus of $1.3 million with a request to use some of those funds for year-end transfers for our HR, our CIP budget that we've planned for the fire department, and I think the total was, I'm sorry, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
196,673.
197,673.
196,673. That's close, unless you want the extra grand.
And then, as we also discussed, I haven't completely closed the books, but I do not foresee us needing to back any of those out. I know in the past we've put preliminary based on where we would end the year. And if you had any questions about revenues and expenses, we went through those as well. So not sure if there's any other questions.
I don't have any.
Anybody want to get into the details here, or we good?
I think we covered them earlier.
Yeah, it wasn't televised, so I don't know if we should give like the TLDR of, or the summary, I should say, for those who don't know the lingo. Just the general, what was generally over budget, what was under, how revenues balanced out, and this and that, or we can just move it forward. I'm happy either way.
I'm happy
Great.
to provide you a motion
Yeah.
if you want. Item number 26-095, I move to authorize the town manager to transfer excess and end-of-year operating revenues and interdepartmental operating balances from the general fund to close out all departmental budgets and further. I also move to authorize the town manager to transfer up to $196,673 from end-of-year excess revenues from the general fund for projects and any additional excess revenues to be applied to end-of-year fund balances.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? Nope. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Helene. All right. Next, we have 26-096 to appoint a member to the planning board. Exciting.
Like to speak on that?
Yes, indeed, Chair of that committee, Mahalik.
So first of all, I just want to thank all the people that applied. We had a number of great applicants. But after going through the selection process, looked like that we should move to appoint Jane Wilson to the planning board.
And as I understand it, it was unanimously approved
Yes.
by the nominating committee, so you guys are all on the same page.
Yep.
Great.
So I'll give you a motion whenever you're ready.
Unless anyone wants to talk about it, I'm ready.
Item number 26-096, I move to appoint Jane Wilson to the planning board.
Second. Sorry. Sorry, I was there. I love her. She's amazing.
It's awesome.
All right, motion,
Love her
second.
too.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Great, congratulations.
Go, Jane, go.
Welcome to the planning board. All right. Finally, we have item 26-097 to set a public hearing date of September 14th to consider and act on a liquor license application for Mare Main LLC. And I will note, if you didn't catch my emphasis, that this is not approving anything tonight. This is just to establish the hearing date. The actual hearing and decision would be scheduled for September 14th if that goes through. So if nobody would like to discuss it, or if you would like to discuss it, you can do that. It's probably not the time for it. Somebody wants to give me a motion.
Would you like a motion?
Yeah.
I'm
I'll give you
motioned
one.
out.
All right.
Let's do it.
I move to set a public hearing date of September 14th to consider and act on a liquor license application for, I hope I'm pronouncing this right,
Mare.
Mare Main LLC. Oh, you're here. Oh, I have already been looking at that menu. I sent it to all my
It's
neighbors.
really good. We have a.
We're so happy you're here. Thank you.
While we distribute these, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on it? All those in favor? Unanimous. We will see you on September 14th, where we will discuss this in detail. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding, though. I'm going to talk about this menu. All right, great. That concludes legislation and policy. Now we're going to get into new business. And I'm left-handed, so I'm going to start on my left. Counselor Filson, if you're prepared.
Thank you. I sure am. So one of the things that I'm hoping that we can talk about, and I already surfaced or bubbled this to the surface with Lily, is I'd like to have some kind of discussion about some kind of program for tax relief for families who that possibly is an expansion of the senior program, where families who may have found themselves in economic hardship for whatever reason, maybe it's a year where they're just really not doing well, can't afford their tax bill, just looking at whether or not there's something that we could do, a program that we can put in place for folks that, are financially struggling, may not be able to hit their tax bill that particular year, could be temporary, or could be something that may temporary for that family. But I think that the economic hardship is out there. There are big life events like divorces, people are unexpectedly widowed, all sorts of things happen, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to regain your footing. And so that's just something at some point I'd love for us to look at the options and see if that's something we want to look at. That's it for me.
Great. Counselor Follett, what do you have?
I have two items. So the first one is I'd like to propose or discuss for new business is in regards to the rail trail. And I think that there is an opportunity, since I know as we hear the community, right, I think there's overwhelming support to do this. And I realize that there's concerns from abutters as well. But I think that not moving forward on the engineering study is a bad choice. And I think that's a process where we can get the abutters, right, get their concerns heard in a process that is a normal process. But I also respect the fact that, right, we're in this world of needs and wants, and trying to be respectful of the cost of the study and the match. And again, this is just for the study, the $12,000 contribution. I think that there is sufficient support in town from folks who would like to see this move forward, that we could do it as a charitable thing, right, where people can contribute to this to fund the $12,000. And I think we'd find that that would get funded quite quickly. So I just wanted to throw that out as something that we can consider. And if there's a, Mr. Manager, if there's a mechanism that we can use that would allow us to take those charitable contributions in and then use that to fund the study. So again, we're not worried about the expenditure of the study. And again, just the study. That's it. That's where it stops.
Two things, if I can. We haven't made that agenda obviously yet, but I think we were aiming for the end of September.
I think the
to-
28th is
the
what the
28th
chairman is just
to
thinking.
revisit this. Additionally, I know that people can make donations to the town. I don't know if we need to have a specific fund category set up for a specific use, or if people could donate and just say, in the memo, this is for a particular thing.
We definitely can.
Okay.
Oftentimes, what you find is a town can receive gifts, and then the council can allocate those gifts depending upon that. Occasionally, folks will make a donation to the town specific to support the fire and rescue, or an ambulance fund, if there was something along those lines, or certain areas. So we could, or even, quite honestly, the food pantry is another one that we do. Councilor Mahalik donates us $20 at each council meeting. We take that and that goes into their account. So we could set up a fund for that, and then the council could look at that and say, okay, we're going to receive it here, and we're going to expend it here, and then it's a one-for-one. That way we could keep that clean. But it's definitely a mechanism we can put in place.
So what all do we need to do to do that? And would it be only for the design study, or can it be that rail trail over there general fund, to where if you have things over that, it goes to potentially something in the future regarding it? Or what do you do if it goes over the 12,000? Do you give refunds? How does the nitty gritty work on that kind of thing before we were to do something like that?
It'd be a nice problem to have.
Indeed.
That's would be the way I would look at that. But I was not trying to be flip at all with that. But it would be a nice problem to have. But generally, what you would do is, once you get to that point, ultimately it comes down to council, because council would have to say, we will receive those funds, and we're happy, and we will expend them based on what the donors' desires are.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty easy one, but really ends up having the council just would need to authorize that expenditure.
So is that something we need to stick on our agenda coming up to establish this
We can
funding
get that on
account?
for the 14th
Okay.
without a problem at all, and I could get the language really cleaned up and ready to go. So if there were willing and ready donors out there, we could set it up to do it, and then you could look at the 28th and say, okay, if those funds came in, the council could then look at that. If you want to make the decision to say, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to have these funds, we're going to use them, that would be a pretty ministerial item to do.
I mean, that to me all looks nice and neat, potentially, to authorize you to go set up that kind of fund, if that is something we need to do as a group. How do we do it? Do we have to vote on this officially at our next meeting? Is it just a
No, I-
consensus right now? We're just yeah, that seems like a good idea, go forth and
I could do it tomorrow.
do your thing?
Or more importantly, Helene could do it tomorrow, to be honest. But because people do send donations
Right.
into the town for certain things, and we have to find a place to house it.
Right, so if you even get $1 toward this thing, you're gonna have to put it in some place, and you're gonna have to make a fund anyways.
We'd want to account for it, yep.
Okay. Do you want to donate $1 to get it started? I'm just kidding. Okay. Sure. I guess, do you have anything else to add? Talk about?
I do, but I didn't know if anybody else wanted to go. It's that,
it's still your turn.
Okay, wow, thanks. So Councillor Vale and I put together some ideas on an outline and a plan to address the need for workforce housing in Cumberland. And this is something that both he and myself, and then Tig, I also heard when we were working on the comp plan, right? And I don't have the statistics in front of me tonight, but it was definitely an area of discussion across town in that, municipal employees, MSAD 51 employees, right, often have a very hard time finding a place to live in town. And that's not going to change anytime soon, right, with the property values in town, and just, that's, I think, just the reality of it. So we put together some thoughts on here as how this might work. And I know we've gone over this ground before, and maybe somewhat painfully, but doesn't mean that we can't try again with a new approach. I do think it's something that's come out of the comp plan that was very well supported to move forward, right? A committee of all these citizens to voted to move this forward over an 18-month period. So I don't think it's something that we can just let lie, and think it's something we need to take up. We're obviously not going to solve or go through all of this now, but in the recommendation in here is to develop a committee, again, like we've had a committee in the past, to go through and look at this option or look at this issue and see if we can find a solution. So that's I don't want to bore everybody with every detail in here, but you guys have all seen it, and I'm sure it's now out for public view as well, so as a plan or an idea.
Right.
That's all I've got.
All right. Councilor Mahalik.
All right, so food pantry, $20. Didn't know if we could come up with a date for a West Cumberland meeting like we did last year. I think it was pretty appreciated by the citizens. And just a couple other items that probably if I paid more attention I could answer myself. But did the Welcome to Cumberland signs ever get up?
I don't think we have them yet.
Okay.
But we've ordered them, and I'll get an update tomorrow to council, but we ordered them through our folks who normally do our sign work, so I'll provide an update tomorrow.
They're somewhere between the vendor and here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must be.
They're on Earth somewhere.
And then the last meeting I brought up to Chris about the crosswalk on Route 100 that a citizen had brought forward, and I know he was going to look into it, but I just didn't know if maybe it's already rectified. I didn't know if we'd heard anything on that. So
Is that for painting it?
yeah, the one that goes between the Rusty Lantern and Cumberland House of Pizza.
I think that should be happening fairly soon because all of our striping is lined up to be done, so it's the same company.
Awesome.
So Chris had updated me that we should be striping hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks, so we should see that hopefully shortly. Be nice to do it when you can still see the road.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mahalik.
That's everything I have. Thank you very much.
Councilor Magoon.
All I have is the LCC, the Land Conservation Commission, is meeting on the 2nd, so it's next Wednesday, not this week's, but next week's Wednesday at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you. Councilor Vale.
Just capitalize on Bill's impetus there. Thank you. I think both of these initiatives, Rail to Trail, I think there's overwhelming public support for this. Anybody that's used the trails elsewhere across the country, we hear nothing but good from that. I think the first step in getting that exploratory work done is important for us to be able to have a fuller understanding of what the costs are. Certainly, that's a much bigger nut to crack than $12,000 of just preliminary work. On the housing, this is an opportunity for us to show leadership that every community should be engaged in. Freeport has just finished a project, and I think it'd be helpful if we reached out to them and had a little site walk, if you will, and how they accomplish that. But getting the task force started, the committee is a first step for us to do to give us a sense of how we can pull this project off. Every day I walk into Food Stop or I walk into Dara's or any other store in the community, and you see the people working there, and you know they're not living in our community because there's no opportunity for them to live in our community. We talk about young families. We talk about friends who have children who have graduated from college or having their first job. And, when you talk about $2,000 for rent someplace in Portland, we can do our share to make it available for others. So I want to see this brought forward, and we'll take a step towards making this happen.
Thank you. For my stuff, I just want to reiterate how thankful I am for Dakota Hewlett of MDOT for spending so much time with us at recent workshops, like site walks with neighbors along the proposed trail site, just being extremely helpful in answering all of our questions and being really great at answering them in an unbiased way and not taking sides, just doing your job, providing facts, sharing your knowledge, and admitting when you don't know the answer, and then coming back with one. So it's basically everything you could ask for. So I know we had talked about sending some official fancy thing to Dakota's superiors, at least, give this person a raise immediately.
I had an email to the commissioner at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. That was
Thank you.
that he responded grateful for our appreciation. But I said
Awesome.
on behalf of the council and staff and the many people in attendance that Dakota just did a great job in a tough situation, and we appreciated his professionalism and ability to answer questions and his just general enthusiasm for what he does for work. So that was really
Sure.
well done.
And when I think you had mentioned that you asked, oh, so is this something they train you on? She's like, no, this is just me. And that kind of thing, that kind of spirit can be just crushed over time, working in a place where other people around you are not up to that same standard. I'm not trying to be rude. This is just the reality of things. And so giving that encouragement and recognition really helps keep that alive, so you're not just crushed under the weight of the machine. So I'm glad you did that, so thank you. And I know Dakota probably appreciates it too. On the topic of the gazebo at Cumberland Common, thank you for that update. I can't remember if this was just your idea or if we had an email that came through at one point mentioning how it had fallen into disrepair. So just those kind of things. Also during the election, people were showing up on bikes and the bike racks had gone missing at one point. The bike racks are back. Just community feedback, if you see something busted, send an email and it'll probably get fixed. Or if you want a particular feature around town that isn't too taxing to install or expensive, it will most likely magically show up shortly after.
Big thanks to Mr. Bolduc, who bird dogged the gazebo, and to our lovely planner, Bridget Perry, who got a grant for the bike racks. So
See?
pretty exciting.
Make it happen.
Yeah, we have great staff doing great things. We're very, very grateful for them.
And then one last thing, I texted you all individually about a survey that Chair Eads started and then abandoned me. So now I have taken that on, and you basically said, here's my rough draft of random stuff, of general priorities and kind of projects that have kind of been floating around the council for a while. But we haven't had the opportunity to kind of prioritize them personally. And also, our council caucus, we didn't get super into those types of projects and talk about them specifically. And we have very limited time together as a group. And the idea of the survey was to kind of list out all the things that, like I said, have been floating around, and then basically I will send out a Google form to all of us, and we will basically, it's anonymous, and we will prioritize kind of what key things are most important to us, to try to help us kind of pin down what we should work on, like this year in particular, perhaps, in the next 6 months, just things that we all kind of have consensus on, that we know we can move forward as like an easy win. I think that most of us want to improve water conditions in West Cumberland. I don't know that, though, because we haven't taken a poll about it. And anonymous, because sometimes people are really passionate about things, and you might not want to disagree with them in front of them, because there is peer pressure involved in these kinds of things. So anonymous is an easy way for us to just honestly answer and say where we stand on particular things and what we'd like to prioritize. It's just very general. This is not like trying to make policy or anything. This is Mike's assignment, and this is the kind of data that he wants to have as chair to try to help us go forward together. But it's voluntary. You don't have to fill it out if you don't want to. So, yes.
I'm not going to fill it out. We don't do things anonymously. We have a workshop. We have full input. We make decisions based on everybody's input. That's how we conduct business. We don't do anything anonymously. And I've frankly, I don't condone it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I got something, but it's not on that. So if you give me a second after. But
Okay. That's fine.
I'm good with it, but
All right. I'm going to complete the assignment as tasked, and we can do it or not do it. Doesn't matter to me either way. You have something?
yeah, I
for it.
did think of it as we were all talking. You know, Council Follett, I just want to say that you're bringing up the funding idea for the rail trail is a good idea. You know, and we don't know what direction we're going to go yet. And here's my fear, right, is we have $15,000 roll into the town, and let's just say we go in a direction that isn't how some of the residents want us to go. What are these people that have sent in this money, they're gonna kind of wonder, like, what are we doing with it? So if we're gonna meet in, say, 4 weeks, are we better off to hold that concept until that meeting before we start looking at setting up an account? Because otherwise, we're gonna, we potentially have to give people their money back, we have to track it all. To me, it just seems like an accounting nightmare. I mean, I guess if you have the funds to write the check, you can grow some interest for a couple more weeks and still be ready to write the check if that's the direction we go. It's just an idea, so I wanted to throw it out to everyone and see what everyone's thoughts are, so.
I think we move forward with it because I think it shows that when I look at this, I see a world of 10-to-1 support for this. And I think people putting the money where their mouth is says a lot. So I'm for moving it forward.
We can, I mean, it's not going to be hard to track on that. And if council decides that they don't want to do that, we have received from,
Yep.
Joe Smith, $100. If there's 120 people who write a $100 check, we just keep that down, name, address, and then we send it back if council decides they don't want to do it. We can do that too.
Okay, as long as it's not gonna create a bunch of work for you.
Yeah, we should be able to do that one
Yeah.
pretty decently.
Just one quickie, sorry, I don't want to keep everybody, it's time to go. One thing when we're thinking about the priorities is, and thanks, Lee, for putting the priorities together, I do think that we should do it in a workshop versus anonymously as well. I agree with Bob on that. But I think one of the things is when we're looking at the priorities, let's also make sure that we're taking a look at what the priorities are on the comp plan right? Because that's been 18 months of work with, 17 citizens, right, who volunteered to do that. And that should be kind of, I know a lot of the things are there already, but let's look at what those are in the plan, because that's going to come up to us here soon. So I think we ought to just kind of tie it together if we can. So, but I appreciate the effort in there. I just do think we should do it in a workshop instead, personally.
I will say that a lot of things on the list are things that probably should wait for the comp plan to exist in its final form. I think some of these projects are jumping the gun, and that's my opinion on it, including housing. But this is, again, I didn't put it together. This was, Chair Eads compiled all this stuff that's been floating around for years at this point, and you can be anti-anonymous on this preliminary survey all you want. I have experienced hostility for sharing opinions publicly in the past from fellow counselors, and I'm not looking to do that. And if someone has ever felt that same way, I think they would appreciate being able to prioritize their items anonymously and not have to deal with like the glares of their colleagues on the dais while they're trying to share their opinions while knowing that they can like feel the pressure coming down on them for disagreeing. And the vast majority of the time we maintain a respectful environment where we don't do that, but nonverbal communication is real. And so that's just one way to eliminate it from the equation entirely. Not saying that anything from that survey would make anything happen or not happen, just a way to gauge where people are honestly without any external pressure. So that was the intent. It was not an intent to go around some established process or make things secret or anything. It was just trying to get objective information, that's all.
I love the idea of the survey. I'm not in Mike's position or your position right now, but knowing that it can be difficult to track a lot of the excellent ideas that are thrown around and put a cadence to them. I think that we all have a lot of really great ideas. We hear a lot from residents, and being able to put together a focused work plan, I think would be a good thing. 100% the comp plan, I think, needs to be finalized, not just public hearing, but we need a final document because the comp plan is the foundation for our zoning, and that should be sort of what we are always working toward. But I think that it's, and if not every counselor wants to do it, that's fine. But from in a workshop is also a follow-up great idea, but it's data, it helps us prioritize, and if we can't agree on a priority list, then we're just kind of going from meeting to meeting. And I think it would be good for us to get our ducks in a row and try something new. So I'm all for it.
Alrighty, does anyone have anything else before we adjourn?
I'll give you a second.
All right, motion to second. If there's no discussion, oh yeah, unanimous. Everyone wants to leave. Good night, thank you. Oh wait, I gotta do this. It has ended.
This was supposed to be a quick one tonight. When I looked at